Welcome to Basically a Therapist, but without the degree. I am Lauren Larson, and I'm excited that you're here with me in episode 23, where we are talking about filling voids. I want to cover this topic because I think all of us have a tendency to want to run away from discomfort, right? Like we don't naturally want to feel discomfort. And so there are things that we do, there are situations that we avoid, there are feelings that we don't want to deal with. And so we try to fill those voids, try to numb those pains and discomforts with other people, things, substances, etc. And some of these things can seemingly be healthy, right? But some of them cannot. And even the healthy things taken out of moderation are unhealthy, like food, like reading, like music, like a lot of things. They're not necessarily bad, but when they are used to avoid and numb and distract, it's unhealthy. And so I just want to offer a different perspective for us. I want to talk about, what if voids aren't meant to be suppressed? What if voids aren't meant to be avoided? And what if we looked at them and kind of embraced them as opportunities for healing and growth? Instead of running from the discomfort, what if we leaned into it with a curiosity and a courage and a trusting in God that He is going to use it all for our good and our fulfillment? Because when we do that, this is just a spoiler alert for the whole episode. When we do that, when we lean into God, when we trust God, when we allow Him to fulfill us, we don't need other things. We don't need other people. And I feel like when we are in this space of trying to fill the voids with anything other than God, we come from this place of like a desperation and a scarcity. It's almost like people can feel like when somebody, have you been around somebody that you can just tell is like they're just desperate? They just are needing that attention. They'll do anything for attention. And that's what this reminds me of. It's like when we are desperate for a significant other, when we are desperate for whatever. Like you can tell when somebody is just trying to fill a void. So like I like to kick off almost every episode, I want to provide some definitions. I want to kind of get an understanding of what a void is. So when we talk about what voids are, they represent an empty space, a feeling of incompleteness. And these voids can arise from loss, uncertainty, unmet needs, and they can seriously affect our well-being. So think about it, like when you are experiencing a loss, whether it's a death, the end of a relationship, such as divorce, a breakup, whatever, losing your job, these losses can create these voids in our lives that kind of maybe we have formed our identity around. And then there's uncertainty. And what comes up for uncertainty for me is the person that just doesn't really know what life is going to look like. Like you may just kind of feel like you're floating through life and you don't really feel like you have a sense of purpose. Maybe you feel like something's missing. like you're always searching and seeking something to fulfill you. And so this is the type of person that could be seeking validation and seeking answers and reassurance. And then voids can also stem from unmet needs. Hello? Could be physical, could be mental, could be emotional, could be spiritual. You know, when our basic needs for belonging, for love, for security, for purpose go unfulfilled, when they're not met, we may experience this lack. And we may try to fill this void through external means like relationships and material possessions, achievements, things like that. And so why do we have this urge to fill? Well, there's a few different reasons. And one of them is this avoidance of discomfort. You know, we as human beings naturally dislike discomfort. Like we're not going out trying to seek feeling uncomfortable, feeling pain, feeling empty, feeling lonely. Like those aren't things that we innately want in our lives. And so we naturally gravitate towards things that give us pleasure, right? Things that give us comfort. Hello, food. Because we want to avoid pain. We want to avoid discomfort. And so when we're faced with challenging emotions and situations and uncertainty, you know, our immediate reaction, instinct might be to seek a distraction, an escape, numb the pain. You know, another reason why we might have an urge to fill is because we live in a day and age where we are used to instant gratification. We are constantly bombarded with opportunities to feel instant gratification with social media and entertainment, shopping, substance abuse. Like those things can offer a quick hit in a way. They're quick fixes, but the thing about them is they're only temporary. The relief that they provide is only temporary. It's not sustainable. Then you could find yourself in this cycle of avoidance and possibly dependency, addiction. Another reason why we have this urge to fill voids is we have a fear of vulnerability. You know, many of us think that vulnerability equals weakness or inadequacy. And so instead of showing who we really are, instead of possibly feeling that rejection, instead of whatever it is, we'd rather not acknowledge our emotions. We'd rather not make them real. You know, like, I'm good. Everything's great. I'm happy. Like this toxic positivity that's really popular right now. Like just positively think your way out of your feelings. Like, no, you should actually feel your feelings. That's why they're there. I said this last week, but your feelings are there for a reason. They're indicators. They're messengers. They're telling you something. We don't have to let them rule our lives. We don't let them affect how we behave and how we speak to people and how we treat people, but we should listen to them. We should allow ourselves to feel them, because the more that we avoid our feelings, the more that they just keep piling up. It doesn't actually go away. Spoiler alert. The more that we avoid, the more that we numb, the more that we distract, they don't actually go away because you're not actually dealing with anything. You know, another one is just the cultural norms and expectations. We have this message to do what makes you feel good, do what makes you happy. And that's not always accurate. It's very rarely accurate. This feeling of, feelings of discomfort are often reinforced as undesirable and that they should be avoided at all costs. And then we're bombarded with these messages of just achievements and success and productivity and happiness. And it creates these unrealistic expectations that leave little to no room for that vulnerability, that authenticity. And this can lead to a whole other mountain of issues when you are finding your identity in productivity, success, happiness, which is temporary. Like these little things that we try to do to fill these voids, do they actually leave you with lasting joy? Like shopping. You get a really big hit at first. You're like, oh my gosh, I just got that. I'm so excited. Can't wait for it. And then it'll like kind of go away, right? And then it kind of comes back all over again once it gets delivered to your door. And then you unbox it and you put it away, or you hang it up in your closet, or you do whatever you do with it. And then what? The high is gone. The newness is gone. And then it's just kind of there again. So you're happy for just a brief amount of time, but it doesn't actually provide lasting, true joy. Another one is just a lack of emotional regulation. Like a lot of people were not taught when they were younger how to effectively regulate emotions and cope with discomfort in healthy ways. A lot of unhealthy ways have been represented, have been shown. But when people are taught at a young age how to handle their emotions, how to work through them, I think of little children that bottle up their emotions so much and then they just explode. And they've been taught that having these emotions are bad. But there aren't bad emotions. Like anger isn't bad. Disappointment isn't bad. It's how you judge these feelings. It's how you label them that makes it good or bad. But again, feelings, emotions are just indicators. They're messengers that we should listen to, and we should allow our kids to listen to. We should allow our kids to feel upset. They should absolutely be angry. It's okay. It's what they do with the anger that makes all the difference in the world. Again, emotions aren't bad. It's how we handle our emotions. Like just because you're mad at somebody doesn't mean you hit them and you scream, right? Like that's a pretty common understanding in culture, is that you just don't scream and hit at people. But the anger is there for a reason. And we need to allow our children to feel that. I see so many parents get mad at their kids because they're mad. And that just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Create space for them. Create space for yourself to feel them. And if you don't know how to work through your feelings and emotions, seek therapy. Have a therapist teach you how to work through that anger, how to work through that sadness, how to work through whatever it is that you're feeling. Because they're there to tell you something. Another reason that we can attempt to fill these voids is because we have this need for control and to create certainty in a situation that feels uncertain and where you feel out of control. As humans, we have this need to control our lives and our surroundings because it helps us to know what's coming, right? It helps us to be prepared so that we were never caught off guard. We have this predictability and this stability that we're looking for, that we're seeking in our lives. And so when we're faced with uncertainty and instability, we may feel the need to regain control through filling voids with what's familiar, what's comfortable, with distractions. That's why there are people that you find caught up in the same patterns because it's comfortable for them. It's all that they know. And in a weird way that may not make sense, they know that when they keep doing the same thing, the same outcome's going to happen again, even when it's unhealthy. Something new, something different is abnormal. It's unpredictable. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. And so a lot of people will still continue to choose the same patterns, the same cycles, because it's comfortable, because it's familiar. Another urge to fill voids is to minimize risk. Because when you minimize risk, you minimize failure. You minimize disappointment. So we may be willing to sacrifice our well-being, our potential healing and growth for what's familiar, what feels safe. Because what if we do something new? What if we step outside of the circle that we're in, the hamster wheel that we're in? What if we get off? And what if we quote unquote fail? What if we experience disappointment? How do we deal with that? And again, these are people that haven't been taught how to deal with disappointment. They haven't been taught how to deal with quote unquote failure. I hate saying failure because it's not failing. And again, this is why it's really important to teach your kids how to deal with disappointment. It's okay to let your kids mess up and learn from those mistakes instead of fixing the mistakes that they created. Let them learn, because then when they're older and they're faced with mistakes that they've created, or they're faced with situations like this, they'd rather stick with what's familiar. They're stuck in this perfectionism because they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to disappoint. Let's talk about the difference between coping mechanisms and healing, okay? Because there is a difference. Coping mechanisms offer a temporary relief, whereas healing is a genuine, lasting change and a growth. So here are some temporary relief coping mechanisms. So distraction. This looks like engaging in activities and behaviors that take our attention off of the discomfort or the pain. This could be binging TV, excessive social media use, overindulging in food, substances, reading. And then there's avoidance. And this is just flat out ignoring and or suppressing uncomfortable emotions rather than acknowledging them and allowing yourself to process them. And this can lead to just numbing yourself out emotionally and disassociating from reality. And then there's external validation. When we are seeking temporary relief, this is what temporary relief looks like. It is seeking validation externally from others. We're looking for validation. We're looking for approval from others. That's going to boost our ego, our pride, our self-esteem, our sense of worth. And I've talked about this before, but our worth can only be defined and found in Jesus. He is who made us worthy. Your boyfriend's not going to make you worthy. Your girlfriend's not going to make you worthy. Your husband, your wife, your friends, nobody, your parents, your siblings, nobody, your boss, nobody can make you worthy. Nobody gets to deem you worthy. Only Jesus. And he has a lot to say about your worth in the Bible. Because of Jesus' sacrifice, we are worthy, period. So I hope that that statement alone does something in your mind to where you no longer feel the need to externally find value. Because you won't find it. You are going to keep chasing that person. You're going to keep chasing that feeling. You are going to keep chasing whatever it is, fill in the blank, because you're never going to find it outside of God. And the sooner that you find it in God, the more whole you can present yourself to people. Because think about it. When you enter into a relationship, you shouldn't be looking at them to fulfill you, to tell you that you're worthy. You shouldn't need from them. We come from a place when we are whole and healed of, I want you in my life. I don't need you in my life. I want you by my side. I don't need you by my side. You do not complete me. Period. I had to do it. So let's talk about healing and growth. So, first of all, as we know, God is the ultimate healer. You will find your full healing and fulfillment in God alone. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But here's some practices for genuine healing and growth. Number one is mindfulness. When you create awareness and a non-judgmental acceptance of your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, it allows you to observe discomfort with curiosity, judgment-free, rather than trying to react impulsively or trying to escape it. You can sit with it. You can just observe it. Like, why is this coming up for me? What does this mean? Ask yourself questions. And if you don't know what questions to ask yourself, look it up online. There are so many. There are so many resources that you can find online. But sit with yourself. Like, why do I feel the need to keep doing this? Why do I feel this way? Why do I think this? Why do I behave this way? Why does anger feel bad to me? Why don't I allow myself to feel sad? Why can't I be alone? Why do I constantly need music or noise or a TV on? Why can't I be alone with myself? You'll find some answers. Another way to embrace healing is to practice vulnerability. Embrace it. Embrace vulnerability and choose maybe one person. It doesn't need to be a lot of people because we need to be careful with who we are vulnerable with because not everybody that is around us is for us. And so pick maybe one trusted, wise person that you can be vulnerable with and let them know that you are practicing and you would like to practice with them if that's okay. And then practice being vulnerable. It doesn't have to be like a word vomit of things. You can give them like a piece of information and see how they do with that. But practice vulnerability because it allows you to connect with yourself. It allows you to know who you are. And when you know who you are, you know how to show up in relationships. It means allowing ourselves to be truly seen and heard as who we are without defense mechanisms, without pretense. And how freeing would that be for you? You know, like I said earlier, temporary relief offers that immediate gratification. Yes. Like you might get immediate relief, but it is only temporary. And as soon as it wears off, it's still there. It's not going away. You can't out drink it. You can't out smoke it. You can't out whatever it, shop it. Can't out sex it. You can't out whatever it. You cannot until you turn and face the problem and run into it head on. Until you do that, it will always be there. It's like a monkey on the back. It's like carrying around a weighted backpack. And you wonder why relationships don't work. And you wonder why you're unhappy at every job that you're at. And you wonder why things keep happening around you. Perhaps it's because you are jumping from thing to thing and person to person, place to place, trying to outrun, trying to escape these feelings, but they're always there. And the sooner that you turn and face them and sit in them, the better you will be, the freer you will be, the more fulfilled you will be, the more joy you will have, the more peace you will feel, the more contentment you will feel. These things are available for you. Like it's available. And the better news is that you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to sit in it alone. Like, yeah, you have to do the work and only you can do the work, but you don't have to go through it alone. You have a God that is for you and that is working things out for your good all the time. All the time. I will never get over saying that. And 2, hopefully you have a community of people, at least one person that can sit in it with you, that can hold your hand and say, I am here with you through it all. Whether it's a spouse or a friend or a sibling or a parent or whoever, find somebody. A therapist. If you don't have any of those things, find a therapist. That's literally their job. And if you find a good one, the healing takes a little bit more time. And it's a little bit more uncomfortable. You typically won't feel instant gratification when you're going through the healing process. When you choose not to reach for those things that offer temporary relief and you sit in it, it's going to require more effort. It's going to require more commitment. It's going to require some discomfort. However, it is longer lasting. It won't fade away within a moment. it will last. And healing isn't like linear, right? It's not this, it's this. So you're up and you're down, you're up and you're down. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Sometimes you make all of this progress and then you get met with a situation or a person that sends you back, sends you right back. And you feel like, I'm back to where I was. I've learned nothing. Why do it again? Because now you have some skills. Now you have some more knowledge than you did when you started. So get back in there and start again. Okay, so you know I have to do it. And that is talk about how God fills our voids. There are so many ways. There are so many ways. Number 1, unconditional love. God fills the void of loneliness and insecurity with his unconditional love because his love knows no bounds. We have a constant belonging and acceptance with God. Like there's nobody that can take that from you. And that's amazing. Number 2, we have so much purpose and meaning in God. And so he can fill the void of just that aimlessness, that lack of purpose, that lack of what am I here to do? Like, what is the point? You know, through him, we can discover what our purpose is, what our calling is. When we align our lives with his plan. God fills a void of chaos and fear and anxiety with his peace. Because his peace transcends all understanding and his presence brings a calmness. Like I mentioned earlier, God not only heals, but he restores. And I am a living testimony of his restoration in my life. There's a psalm that I just read recently where it was talking about how God has restored me. And I just felt that so deeply in my spirit because I have been fully restored by God. Maybe one day I will share my entire story. But just know that I am not the same. I don't think the same. I don't talk the same. I don't act the same. I am not the same person. And it is only because of God and his restoration. He can restore and redeem anybody. Through his grace, through his mercy, we can find our wholeness and restoration in him. You know, because of God's power, it fills that void of weakness and maybe inadequacy. And you no longer have to feel like you aren't good enough, that you can't handle anything, that you're not strong enough, because you are, because you have God's strength in you. If you are a follower of God, you have his strength. And for those that feel hopeless over the future, I want you to know that God offers a hope. He fills the void of despair and hopelessness with his hope. He promises to turn it. He promises to use it for good. And so if it's not good yet, he's not done yet. So we can have this confidence and this faith knowing that he is working our future out for our good. God also fills the void of isolation and anybody that has that abandonment wound, because he is all around all the time. He never leaves us or forsakes us. He is with us in every season of life, through every day, every hour, every moment, every second. You are never alone, ever. He is always there for you. Why do I feel like I'm going to cry right now? Oh my gosh. God fills any void of guilt and shame with his forgiveness and his grace and his redemption because of his sacrificial love, because he sent his son to die on the cross for us, for our sins. We now have no condemnation through Jesus Christ. We are cleansed, we are healed, and we are free from that bad mistake, from that bad decision. It holds no power over us anymore when we give it to God. The only reason why it holds power, why it holds weight, is because you're choosing to carry it. You're not giving it up. You know, there were decisions that I made in my life that were bad. They were awful. But when I think about them now, I have zero, and I mean zero guilt. I have zero shame because Jesus restored me. He redeemed me. And he has used it. Like, I wouldn't be here now talking if it wasn't for his redemption and his restoration. He has removed guilt and shame from my life, and he can do the same for you. God fills the void of emptiness and dissatisfaction because of his joy and his fulfillment. His presence offers a joy, which is beyond happiness, because happiness is fleeting, but a joy, a sustaining joy that doesn't go away. It is available. So let's talk about some practical strategies on how to work through this, how to step away from feeling the need to fill voids, to avoid discomfort, to run away. The first one is develop some emotional awareness. And you can do this by tuning in to your feelings, tuning in to how you feel, letting yourself feel what you feel and being curious about it without judging it. You can do this through therapy, through journaling. Journaling is so good. Through talking, through naming your emotions. Some people have a hard time even identifying what they feel. That is how disconnected they are from themselves and their emotions. So even if you can get to a place where you can just identify, I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel hurt, I feel betrayed, whatever. If you can get to that spot, that is a big first step. And if you're already at that step, if you have some awareness of, okay, I know what I'm feeling, then ask yourself why. Sit with it. Where is this coming up? Sometimes just even understanding it can help you, and it can unlock so many other things for you. Another strategy, and you know I have to say it, is to set healthy boundaries. What kind of podcast would it be if I didn't talk about boundaries every episode? But set healthy boundaries. Establish clear boundaries to protect your emotional well-being. Honor your needs, your values, your limits. Learn to say no and prioritize your needs as well. There's room for their needs. There's room for your needs. In a healthy relationship, there is room for both. Another strategy is to cultivate some resilience. Reframe challenges. Reframe quote unquote negative emotions. They're not negative, but uncomfortable emotions. Reframe them as opportunities for growth, for opportunities to learn and to get better. If you look at your past, you've been able to overcome so much adversity. You're still here now. So why can't you overcome this? You are 100% of your days so far. Let's keep it going. Another strategy is to seek support. Always seek support through a licensed therapist, through a pastor, through a mentor, through a friend, through whoever. Seek support. Not just anybody, be picky with it. I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that you will look at discomfort in a new way, that you won't run from it, that you won't shy away from it, that you won't feel the need to numb it or avoid it, but that you'll sit in it because it's for your good. And it's for the good of everyone that you're in relationship with. It's for the good of your kids or your future kids. It's for the good of your spouse or your future spouse. It's for the good of your boss or your future boss. It's for the good of yourself and everyone around you. So thank you for being here. If you haven't already, like this episode, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody that you think that it'll help and encourage. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Yeah.